The rain had been falling for hours, soft at first, then loud. It tapped gently on the metal bench in the middle of the city park, where a small girl sat. Hugging her knees, she was soaked. Her thin dress clung to her body, and her shoes were muddy. The world around her moved quickly. Cars rushed by. People hurried home with umbrellas. Lights blinked in stores, but she sat still, invisible. Her name was Lila. She was just 12, but that night, she felt 50. She stared up at the sky, blinking as drops splashed into her eyes. Her hands trembled, not just from the cold, but from everything, from fear, from sadness, from not knowing what would happen. Next, a week ago, she had been at home. Now, she had none. A week ago, she had a family. Now, she had no one. The day she was kicked out was like a storm she didn't see coming. Her mother had been yelling again. Her stepfather too. She had heard the same thing many times before, that she was a burden, that she caused trouble, that she was too quiet or too strange. But that day, her stepfather's voice had thundered louder than ever, and her mother, instead of stopping him, said nothing, only pointed to the door. Double quotes, go, just go, don't come back. Lila didn't even cry. She just walked, maybe because a part of her already knew this day would come. She had no plan, only a backpack. Inside it was a photo of her real dad, who had passed away when she was 4, a half-empty bottle of water, and an old book she couldn't stop reading. It was the only thing that made her feel safe. The park became her home. She chose it because it had trees, and trees made her feel less alone. But nights were hard. She slept on benches, curled up in corners, hiding when people walked by. Sometimes older boys threw things at her or laughed. Sometimes people looked the other way when she whispered for help. No one really saw her. Not really, until one evening. Something changed. It was around sunset. The sky was orange and pink, and Lila was sitting under a tree, holding her book. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Her stomach hurt, and her lips were dry. Her hair was a mess. She tried to read, but the letters blurred from hunger and tiredness. She closed the book and leaned back, staring at the clouds. That's when she heard footsteps. Calm ones, not rushing like the others. Slow and gentle. She didn't turn around. Then a voice spoke. You like stories. It was quiet, kind, and calm. Lila looked up. A man stood there. Black boots, jeans, black jacket, long hair, soft eyes, and a paper bag in his hand. She blinked. She had seen him before on movie posters, in stores, on TVs, through windows. But in those, he looked untouchable, famous, like someone from another world. But here, he looked real. He smiled. I saw you here yesterday too, and the day before. Do you want something to eat? Lila didn't know what to say. She wanted to trust, but trust had only brought her pain. Still, her stomach growled louder than her fear. She nodded. He walked closer, knelt down, and handed her the paper bag. She opened it. Warm steam floated out. It was a grilled cheese sandwich, still fresh, and a small cup of hot soup. Tears welled up in her eyes. She hadn't tasted warm food in days. She whispered, "Thank you." The man sat on the grass, a little distance away, careful not to scare her. He didn't ask questions. He didn't stare. He just sat there, peaceful. After a while, he said, "You remind me of someone I knew." She looked at him. Who? He smiled softly. "A little girl I once saw in the mirror. Not really, but I guess I saw the same eyes. The kind that held too much sadness for someone so young." Lila didn't speak. She ate slowly, as if not to waste the moment. Then he asked, "Do you have a name?" She hesitated. "Lila, that's a beautiful name," he said. "Mine's Keanu." She already knew, but hearing him say it like that, like it wasn't a big deal, made her feel less small. That evening, they talked, not much, but enough. He didn't ask her why she was alone. He didn't force her to explain. He just sat and told her stories. About movies, about places, about people he'd met. But the way he told them wasn't like reading lines. It felt like he was painting pictures with his voice. She smiled more than she had in weeks. When the sun disappeared, he stood. "I'll come back tomorrow, Lila. Same time, same place, only if you want me to." She nodded, quietly. and he walked away. Lila stayed under the tree that night. For the first time, she didn't feel scared. The bench didn't feel so cold, and her book, resting beside her, felt heavier, like it had new stories waiting to be written. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have guessed, was that this man, Keanu, wasn't just being kind. He had noticed her days before, sitting alone, reading the same book, always in the same clothes, and something in him had broken a little when he saw her. He had once been lost to the next day. The rain came back. Lila waited anyway, under the same tree. Her stomach ached less because her heart ached less. And then Keanu returned. But this time, he brought more than just food. He brought a warm blanket, a pair of clean socks, a smile, and something in his eyes that looked like hope. But just as he reached her, a tall man in a uniform approached. "Hey," the man yelled. "You can't be here, girl. This isn't a shelter." Lila's eyes widened. Fear returned. She stood quickly, ready to run. Keanu stepped between them, calm, firm. "She's not causing any trouble," he said. "Rules are rules," the man snapped. Keanu's voice stayed gentle, but strong. "Then maybe the rules are broken." The man paused, took a closer look at Keanu's face. His eyes narrowed. "You're that actor, right?" Keanu didn't answer. He turned to Lila. "Come on, walk with me." She followed him. She didn't know why, but she trusted him. They walked together, quietly, until the city lights faded behind them. And somewhere in the distance, her life was about to change forever. But Lila had no idea, yet no idea of the secret that would one day be revealed. About her past, her name, and how it was connected to the man walking beside her. She was just 12, tired, lost, but something deep inside her began to believe again. Because sometimes all it takes is one person to notice, one person who sees you not as a problem, not as a mistake, but as a story still unfolding. And Keanu saw her. Not the dirt on her face, not the holes in her shoes. He saw her. And tomorrow would bring a truth neither of them were ready for. But the truth always finds its way. They walked in silence at first. The streets were quieter now, the city slowing down as the sky darkened. Keanu walked on the side near the road, gently guiding Lila toward the sidewalk's safer edge without saying anything. He didn't rush her, didn't ask questions. He just walked like someone who had time, and for the first time in her life, someone had time for Lila. After a while, she whispered, "Are you taking me somewhere?" Keanu looked over and nodded slightly. "Just a little place I know. You don't have to stay, but I thought you might like something warm." Lila didn't answer. She didn't want to seem too hopeful. She had been tricked before. People said nice things but didn't mean them. Still, something about his voice, the way he looked at her like she mattered, made her want to follow. They reached a quiet street lined with trees. In the middle was a small house with soft lights glowing through the windows. There was a porch with 2 wooden chairs and a small wind chime that sang with the wind. It didn't look like a rich man's home. It looked like something from a storybook. Simple, safe. Keanu opened the gate and looked back. "You can come in if you want, or sit out here, no pressure." Lila hesitated, her eyes scanning everything: the porch, the door, the windows. Nothing looked dangerous, no shouting, no locks. Just calm. She stepped inside. The house smelled like cinnamon and something sweet baking. The walls were filled with books, old records, and drawings. A cat sat lazily on the couch and blinked at her. Uninterested, Lila stood near the door, frozen. Keanu placed the blanket he had carried on a chair. "This place is kind of my hiding spot," he said gently. "I come here when the world feels too loud." Lila looked up at him. "You get tired of the world too?" He smiled. "Sometimes more than I can explain." He motioned to the table. "You can sit if you're okay with it." She walked slowly, still unsure, but her legs were tired, and the warmth was calling to her. When she sat down, her body almost melted into the chair. It felt like sinking into a cloud. Keanu went into the kitchen and returned with a bowl of soup and a grilled cheese sandwich again. Just like before, but this time with a cup of hot cocoa beside it. Lila stared at the food. Her lips trembled. "You're not gonna take it back?" she asked softly. His eyes softened. "Never." She ate slowly, trying not to cry. Every bite felt like magic. Food always tasted better when someone gave it out of kindness. When she was done, she wiped her mouth with the sleeve of her dress and looked up. "Why are you doing this?" Keanu leaned back in his chair. "A long time ago, when I was hurting, someone helped me, not because they had to, just because they saw I needed it. I never forgot that feeling." "But I'm nobody," Lila said, almost like she believed it. "You're not nobody," Keanu said gently. "You're just not seen." Enough. Lila looked away. The words touched something deep. For years, she had been told she didn't matter. She had started believing it. Keanu reached into a drawer and pulled out a small notebook. He slid it toward her. "This is for you, in case you ever want to write your own story." Lila blinked. "My own story?" "Yeah, because your story matters." She stared at the notebook. Its cover was simple, blank, but it felt powerful in her hands, like someone had given her a piece of her voice back. The hours passed quickly. The cat climbed into her lap. Keanu put on soft music. Lila listened, watched the fire crackle, and felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: peace. But even in peace, her heart was full of questions. Why was he helping her? Why did he seem sad sometimes, even when he smiled? And most of all, what would happen next? The next morning, Lila woke up on the couch with the soft blanket covering her. The cat had curled up next to her. The sun peeked through the window. It felt unreal, like a dream. She sat up quickly, afraid she had stayed too long. But then Keanu walked in with 2 mugs in his hand. "You're up. Good morning." She nodded. Slowly. "I didn't mean to fall asleep. You needed rest," he said. "No one's mad." He handed her one of the mugs. Warm milk with honey. They sat together on the porch. The air was fresh. Birds chirped. After a long pause, Keanu spoke. "You don't have to tell me your story, Lila. But if you ever want to, I'll listen." Lila stared at her hands. "My mom changed after my dad died. She married someone new. He didn't like me, said I cost too much, made things hard. One day, he told me to leave, and she didn't stop him." Keanu nodded, not in shock, but in understanding, like someone who knew pain, who had carried it too. "I'm sorry," he said. "That wasn't your fault." Lila bit her lip. "I think I started to believe I was the reason." "You weren't," he said again. "You're a child. They failed you." Those words hit her hard, not because they were loud, but because they were the opposite of everything she had ever heard. Then he said something even more surprising. "Do you want to come with me today? Just for a few hours. I have something to do in the city. I think it'll be fun." Lila blinked. "Where?" He grinned. "Someplace you've never been. Promise." They took a car ride across town. Lila sat beside him, watching buildings flash by. She didn't ask questions. She liked surprises now. Maybe because the last one brought her here. Finally, they stopped outside a tall building with a sign that read Voice House Children's Center. Lila looked at him. "What is this place?" Keanu smiled. "It's a school, but different. They help kids like you. Kids who are smart, kind, creative, but who've been through things no kid should go through." "Why are we here?" "Because I told them about a girl I met. A girl who's brave, who deserves more, and they want to meet her." Lila's eyes filled with fear. "What if they don't like me?" "They will," Keanu said. "And if they don't, that's their mistake." She took a deep breath and followed him inside. The woman who greeted them was gentle, with kind eyes and a warm laugh. She spoke to Lila like she mattered. She showed her around a little garden, a reading room, even a music space. Keanu watched from the hallway. He saw Lila's smile return. He saw her touch the piano with curious fingers. He saw her sit beside another girl and say hello without fear. And for a moment, he felt something deep in his chest. Not pride, not relief. Something like destiny. But what he didn't know, what Lila didn't know, was that fate had been working in secret all along. Because that same night, while searching through old papers in his quiet home, Keanu opened an envelope he had never dared open before. Inside was a letter from a woman he once knew long ago, and on that letter was a name he hadn't heard in 12 years. Lila. His hands shook, his breath caught. And his world tilted. Because the little girl who had been kicked out by her family might not be a stranger at all. Keanu sat still on the floor of his study. The envelope lay open beside him. The letter in his hand trembled slightly, like it was alive. Outside, the world was quiet. The wind had calmed. Even the cat seemed to sense something had changed. His eyes scanned the letter again. Every word felt heavier now. Dear Keanu, I never told you, but I was pregnant when you left. I didn't want to hold you back, so I didn't say anything. If you ever wonder about the child, her name is Lila. Keanu closed his eyes. He had read those lines 5 times already, and still, it didn't feel real. Lila, the girl with the tired eyes, the girl sleeping in parks, the girl who thought no one wanted her. She was his daughter he never knew he had. Memories flashed in his mind, of a quiet summer, of a kind woman named Claire, of long walks and soft laughter. They were young, full of dreams, but life pulled them in different directions. He had gone on to chase his career. She had stayed behind. They never spoke again. And now he understood the sadness in Lila's eyes, the way she looked at the world. He saw himself in her, not just in spirit but in blood. His hands covered his face. For a long time, he didn't move, only breathed, quietly, deeply. Then he stood. There was only one thing to do now. Lila was still at the children's center. She had joined a small art session with the other girls. Her hands, though shaky, began to draw again. She drew a tree with wide roots and strong branches, and at the center of it, a small figure alone, but standing tall. The teacher smiled at her. That's beautiful, Lila nodded. I want to live under a tree like that one day. Outside, Keanu waited in his car. His mind was spinning. How do you tell a child something so big? How do you explain the silence of 12 years? How do you say, I didn't know you existed, but I see you now? He didn't want to scare her. He didn't want her to run. So he waited. And when the session ended, he walked in slowly, with gentle steps. Lila saw him and smiled. This place is nice. I made a friend. Keanu smiled back, though his heart was thudding like a drum. I'm really glad. They walked outside together. The sun was soft behind the clouds. Birds moved lazily across the sky. Then he stopped near a bench. Lila, he said slowly, I want to tell you something. It's important, but only if you're ready. She looked up, curious. What is it? He took a breath. Do you remember your mom's name? She hesitated. Claire Emerson. His chest tightened. I knew her. A long time ago. Lila blinked. You knew my mom? He nodded. Yes, we were friends, close friends, many years ago, before she met him. Lila's voice dropped. Keanu nodded again. Before. She looked down. She used to be kind. Then she changed. She stopped talking about the past. I always wondered why. Keanu sat down on the bench. His hands rested on his knees. There's more. Lila didn't sit. She just stared at him, waiting. I didn't know, he said slowly. Not until last night. I found a letter from your mom from many years ago. She wrote that she was pregnant. Lila's eyes narrowed. Keanu's single quote's voice softened. Your name was in the letter. Silence. The wind stirred the trees. Then like glass cracking, Lila whispered, What are you saying? Keanu looked at her, eyes gentle but firm. I think I'm your father, Lila. Her knees wobbled. She sat slowly beside him, confused, hurt, shocked. No, she whispered. No, that can't be. Keanu nodded. I understand. It's a lot. Why would she never tell me? Why would she hide it? Keanu looked out at the sky. Maybe she was scared. Or maybe she thought she was doing the right thing, but she let him treat me like nothing, Lila whispered. And now you're saying you're my real dad? He didn't reach for her, didn't rush. I don't expect anything from you. I just thought you deserved to know. Tears slipped from her eyes, not loud, not messy, just soft and slow. All this time, she said, voice shaking, I thought I was nothing. Keanu turned to her. You are everything. Lila looked at him, really looked. And for the first time, she saw it. The shape of his eyes, the line of his jaw. They matched hers. Not in a loud way, but in the quiet way that mattered. She whispered. Why didn't you look for me? His voice cracked. Because I didn't know you were real. They sat in silence. Time slowed. The world paused. Then Lila did something Keanu didn't expect. She leaned into him. He didn't move, only wrapped one arm around her gently, and she cried into his shoulder. For minutes, maybe more. Not just because of pain, but because for the first time in her life, someone had caught her. When she fell, the days that followed were strange, full of learning. Keanu let her set the pace. He didn't try to become her dad all at once. He didn't buy her everything. Instead, he listened, watched, protected. He took her to doctors for checkups, to stores for new clothes. They went to bookstores where she picked out to more notebooks. She had started writing again. At night, she still cried sometimes. Memories don't leave that fast. But now she didn't cry alone. They cooked dinner together, played music, watched old movies, and sometimes just sat on the porch in silence. One day, she looked at him and asked, "Why didn't you have kids before?" He smiled softly. "I guess I didn't know how much I wanted one, until now." She smiled back. And then another surprise. A woman from Child Services came to visit. "We've heard of your situation," she said politely, "since you're her biological father. And she was abandoned. It changes everything. If you want custody, it's possible." Keanu glanced at Lila. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he said, "We'll talk about it together." When the woman left, Lila looked up. "Do you want to be my parent?" He knelt beside her. "I already am, but if you want me to make it official, I will, only if you want it to." Lila didn't answer, but that night, she placed the letter from her mom beside her bed. And the next morning, she drew something new. Not a lonely tree this time, but 2 trees, side by side, their roots touching. But just when everything began to feel safe again, a knock came at the door, and behind it stood a man Lila never wanted to see again. Her stepfather. His eyes were cold, and his voice said words that made her freeze. "She's mine. I want her back." Keanu stepped in front of her, his face calm, but his hands clenched. The past had returned. And now, everything was at risk again. The air in the room turned sharp. Keanu stood between Lila and the doorway, his back straight, eyes locked on the man outside. The stepfather leaned slightly against the doorframe, as if he belonged there, but his presence felt wrong, like a storm trying to slip in through a crack. Lila froze behind Keanu. Her hands trembled. She knew that voice. She had heard it in her nightmares. The voice that told her she was nothing, that she was unwanted. The voice that made her feel small, even when she was doing everything right. "What are you doing here?" Keanu asked calmly. The man smirked. "Heard someone took her and figured it was time to come get what's mine." Lila couldn't speak. Her mouth went dry. Keanu's single quotes jaw tightened. "You kicked her out." "That was a mistake," the man said, shrugging. "Look, things got hard. People get upset. Doesn't mean I stopped caring." Lila's heart pounded. She wanted to scream, to run, to vanish. Keanu didn't move. "You have no right. She lived in my house." The man snapped. "I raised her." Keanu looked over his shoulder at Lila. "Do you want to talk to him?" Her head shook fast, silent, terrified. Keanu turned back. "You heard her." The man's eyes narrowed. "Who are you to say?" Keanu stepped forward slowly. "I'm her father." Those words hit the man like a slap. He paused, then scoffed. "That's so." "Yes," Keanu said firmly, "and I'll protect her with everything I have." For a moment, the man hesitated. He looked past Keanu at Lila. His eyes weren't warm. They were cold and calculating. "He wasn't here for love. This ain't over," he said darkly. "You'll hear from me." Then he turned and walked away. The door closed softly behind him. But the silence in the room screamed. Lila sat on the edge of the couch, legs tucked under her, arms around her knees. Keanu brought her a warm drink and sat beside her. She hadn't spoken since the door shut. Finally, she whispered, "He can't take me, right?" Keanu shook his head gently. "Not without a fight, and I won't let that happen." "He doesn't want me," she said. "He just wants control, to scare me, like always." Keanu looked at her. I believe you. My mom let him treat me like that. She let it happen, over and over. Keanu reached out, resting a hand on her shoulder. You're not there anymore. You're safe now. Tears slid down her cheeks. But what if he lies to the court? What if they believe him? Keanu's voice was calm but firm. I'll make sure they don't. The next few days were filled with paperwork, phone calls, and legal meetings. Keanu hired a lawyer, someone gentle but sharp, someone who listened to Lila and believed her story. Lila gave a statement. It was hard. She had to remember things. She had tried to forget. The yelling, the pushing, the nights she was locked out in the cold. The bruises on her heart no one ever saw. But she was brave. She held Keanu's hand the whole time. Child Services sent an investigator to her old home. They found broken furniture, neighbors who whispered about fights, a landlord who said she was always left outside too long. And in all of it, there was no trace of love, only fear. Lila watched from the sidelines, unsure if it would be enough. One evening, she sat with Keanu on the porch. The sun was dipping low. The sky turned gold. If I have to go back, she said quietly, I'll run again. Keanu turned to her. You won't have to. But if anything ever happens, I'll come. Find you, always. She nodded. Then added, I'm scared. Me too. He admitted. She looked up, surprised. What if I mess this up? He said gently. What if I'm not enough for you? Lila blinked. But you already gave me more than anyone ever did. Keanu smiled. You gave me something to. What? A reason to slow down, to look deeper, to be more. Lila rested her head against his arm. You're already enough, she whispered. The court hearing came faster than expected. Lila wore a simple dress Keanu bought her. He wore a gray suit. They sat side by side on the long bench, waiting for their names to be called. The stepfather walked in, alone, no mother beside him. She hadn't shown up. Lila single quotes S hands trembled in her lap. The courtroom was quiet, cold. The judge sat high, flipping through papers. Testimonies were read. Evidence was shown. Lila stayed quiet until the judge turned to her. Do you want to live with your stepfather? Lila stood slowly. Her voice was soft but clear. No, I don't. Why not? Her eyes filled with tears. Because he never treated me like I mattered. He never said good night, never asked how I felt. He just shouted and ignored, and sometimes pushed me when I cried. And one day, he told me to leave, and I did, and I thought I would die alone, until I met Keanu. The judge nodded. And you want to stay with Keanu Reeves? Lila looked over at him, then back at the judge. Double quotes yes, because he didn't ask for anything. He just helped me, because he saw me. The courtroom went still. Even the stepfather looked uncomfortable. The judge looked at the papers one more time, then at Keanu, then at Lila. And spoke. It is the decision of this court that custody of Lila Emerson is hereby granted to Mr. Keanu Reeves. Lila gasped. Keanu closed his eyes for a moment, letting the words sink in. Then she ran into his arms. And the courtroom faded away. That night, back at home, Lila stood at the window. Outside, the stars were bright. Keanu walked in and sat beside her. How do you feel? He asked. She smiled, like the world is big again, but not scary. He handed her a small gift. She opened it. Inside was a necklace, a tiny silver tree with two roots touching. Like your drawing, he said. She hugged him tightly. Thank you, she whispered, for finding me. Keanu held her close. You found me too. And for the first time in her life, Lila wasn't just surviving. She was starting to live. The days after the court hearing felt like spring blooming inside Lila's chest. Not just because of the paper that now said Keanu was her guardian, but because for the first time in 12 years, she had a home. Not a place with walls, but a place where her heart could rest. Keanu didn't treat her like a project. He treated her like a person. He didn't try to replace her broken pieces with shiny things. He helped her grow new roots. He let her pick the color of her new room, soft sky blue. He helped her build a bookshelf for her stories and filled the bottom shelf with blank notebooks. He taught her how to make pancakes. She taught him how to draw cartoon cats with silly faces. At night, they played old records and danced badly. In the kitchen, during the day, They visited libraries, watched plays, took walks through quiet gardens. Sometimes they didn't talk much, and that was okay. Silence felt safe now. But healing wasn't a straight line. Some nights, Lila still woke up from dreams that felt too real. She would sit in the dark, heart pounding, eyes wide. On those nights, Keanu didn't ask what the dream was. He just sat with her, silent and still, until her breathing slowed. Sometimes he made her tea. Sometimes he just handed her one of her own drawings. And every time, without fail, he said the same thing: "You're not alone." Lila had started school again. Not a big school, not a loud one, but a quiet, small learning center where every student got attention, and teachers actually listened. At first, she didn't speak much. She kept her head down. Her teachers thought she was shy. But one day, a classmate named Maya asked her what her favorite book was. Lila answered, then asked back, and just like that, a seed of friendship was planted. Maya had a wide laugh and liked painting the sky purple. She showed Lila how to make paper stars and hang them from string. Lila showed her how to write a poem in under 5 minutes. They became inseparable. When Lila told Keanu about Maya, his eyes lit up. "She sounds like a light," he said. "She is," Lila replied. "Like you." One weekend, they visited a children's charity event in the city. Keanu was invited as a guest, but he didn't bring bodyguards or wear anything fancy. He wore jeans and a soft sweater and held Lila's hand the whole time. The event was about helping kids who had no homes, kids who had stories like Lila's. One woman came up and asked, "Mr. Reeves, do you have a child?" Keanu looked down at Lila. Double quotes, "Yes," he said. And Lila squeezed his hand tighter. When the event ended, a young boy about 6 years old ran up to Lila. His clothes were too big for him. His shoes didn't match. "Are you famous too?" he asked her. Lila knelt down. "No," she said, "but I used to be invisible. Now I'm not." The boy didn't understand the words, but he smiled. She gave him her old bracelet. "Keep this. It reminds you that you matter." The boy hugged her, then ran back to the crowd. Keanu had been watching from the side. "You're already doing what the world needs," he said, "just by being yourself." Lila didn't know what to say. Her heart felt like it was glowing. But peace doesn't always last forever. One evening, Keanu received a call from a hospital. A quiet voice said, "Mr. Reeves, I'm sorry to disturb you, but Claire Emerson has been admitted. She's very ill, and she asked for her daughter." Keanu looked at Lila, who was sitting on the couch, drawing stars. He sat beside her, gently placed a hand on her back. "Your mother is in the hospital," he said softly. "They say she doesn't have much time." Lila stopped drawing. Her hand dropped the pencil. "She asked for me," she whispered. "Yes," Keanu said, "but you don't have to go, only if you want to." Lila stared at the floor for a long time. Then she stood. "I want to see her." The hospital room smelled like medicine and something colder like endings. Claire Emerson lay on the bed, frail and pale. Her eyes fluttered open when she heard the door. Lila stepped inside. She had grown so much in just weeks, stronger, taller in spirit. Claire blinked. Her voice was dry. "Lila." Lila walked slowly to the bed. She didn't cry. "You asked for me," she said. Claire's lip trembled. "I didn't know if you'd come. I almost didn't." Claire looked away. "I did. Terrible things. I let him hurt you. I didn't protect you. I was weak." Lila stood still. "Yes, you were." Claire started to cry. "I thought I was doing what was best," she whispered. "But I see now. I was afraid of being alone. I didn't know how to be a mother." Lila's hand stayed at her side. Then she said something even she didn't expect. "I forgive you." Claire looked up, stunned. "Not because you earned it," Lila continued, "but because I need to be free. I don't want to carry your weight anymore." Claire sobbed. And Lila leaned down and placed her drawing on the table beside her. A tree, with roots broken, but branches still reaching. Claire whispered, "Thank you," then closed her eyes. Lila turned and walked out of the room. Keanu was waiting in the hall. She looked at him. "I think that part of my story is done now." He opened his arms, and she stepped into them. Back home, Lila opened a new notebook. She wrote the first line in bold. Careful letters, this is not a sad story. This is a story of becoming. Keanu walked in, holding 2 mugs of cocoa. What are you writing? He asked. She smiled. Our story? He sat beside her. Does it have a happy ending? He asked. Lila looked at him. Not yet, she said, but it's getting there. And outside the window, the stars kept watching. Quiet, gentle, always there. Months passed. The seasons changed slowly, but inside Lila's life, they changed all. At once, winter had lived in her heart for so long, she almost forgot what warmth felt like. But now, every morning felt like spring. Every night felt like peace. Her hair had grown longer. Her face looked different in the mirror, more relaxed, more open. The dark circles under her eyes faded. Her drawings filled the walls of her room. Notebooks overflowed with stories, poems, and memories she once tried to forget. She still kept. The first notebook Keanu gave her. It had coffee stains on the edge and one corner folded. Inside were messy words, dried tears, and one single sentence written over and over. I'm at her. Keanu kept his promise. He never treated her like a guest or a task. He treated her like family. He walked beside her, never in front. He didn't try to erase the past. He helped her grow beyond it. One morning, she walked into the kitchen and found him making pancakes, whistling a strange tune. She laughed. What is that sound? He smiled. That's my cooking song. It sounds like a bird with a cold. That's accurate, he said. Very accurate. They laughed together. The kind of laughter that stretches the heart open wide. The kind that leaves light behind. One weekend, they took a road trip up the coast. The car windows down, music playing low, the wind rushing past them. Where are we going? Lila asked, smiling. Someplace new, Keanu said. I think we both deserve new places. They stopped at small towns, ate ice cream by the sea, took photos with old cameras, collected seashells. Lila wrote poems on napkins. Keanu read them out loud like they were precious. One evening, as the sun dipped, behind the hills, they reached a small cabin in the woods. It had wide windows and a tiny porch. There was no internet, just silence, just stars. Inside the cabin was a gift waiting for her. A small wooden box with her name carved on it. Inside it, a letter. Keanu stood by while she opened it. She unfolded the paper and began to read. Dear Lila, I can't change the years we lost. I can't undo what you went through. But I can promise this: I will walk beside you for all the years ahead. I will listen when you're quiet. I will cheer when you rise. I will sit beside you when you're unsure. I am proud to be your father. Thank you for letting me. Love. Keanu. Lila didn't say anything. She folded the letter carefully and held it close to her chest. Then she looked up. I'm glad you found me, Keanu whispered. I think you found me too. The next day, they walked deep into the woods. Lila carried a notebook and a pencil. Keanu carried a small bag with snacks and water. After an hour, they found a clearing with wildflowers and a single tall tree. Lila sat under it. This is it, she said. It? Keanu asked. This is where I want to plant my memory. Keanu nodded, sat beside her. What memory? The one where I stopped being lost. She dug a tiny hole in the ground, placed a rolled-up page inside a page with the words, I forgive. I grow, I rise. Then she covered it with dirt, patted it down, and sat back. They sat in silence. Then Keanu said softly, You're not just my daughter. You're my teacher. Lila smiled. What have I taught you? He looked at the tree. That being brave means being honest, that healing takes time, and that love is something we choose every day. Weeks later, Lila stood at her school's open mic night. The small room was packed. Teachers, parents, students. Maya had signed her up without asking. You'll thank me later, she said. Lila stepped up to the microphone. Her hands trembled. Her voice was soft. Hi, my name is Lila. I wrote something. She opened her notebook. And began. When I was 12, I thought the world had ended. I thought I was invisible. But someone saw me, not because I was loud, not because I asked, but because they cared. They didn't save me. They stood beside me. And when I was ready, they gave me wings. When she finished, the room was silent. Then someone stood. Keanu. He clapped first. The rest followed. She smiled. And Knew she wasn't invisible anymore. A year passed. Lila turned 13. Keanu surprised her with a garden party. Just a few friends, cupcakes, music, laughter. She wore a white dress and a necklace with a silver tree dot at sunset. She stood under the same tree in their backyard and looked up. "Do you remember?" She asked Keanu. "When I told you I wanted to live under a tree one day." He smiled. "Yes, well," she said, "I do now." One final night, she sat by her window. Stars blinked above. She opened her newest notebook and wrote, "Dear younger me, you are stronger than you think. You are worth more than they ever made you believe. And one day, someone will walk into your life and stay. When that day comes, let them. Love. Lila, because this was never just a story about being lost. It was about being found. By a man who didn't need to be a hero to be one, and a girl who wasn't saved but who rose on her own. With love, with courage. With kindness.